Okay, I wanted to do a video. I guess I'll start off by saying I have epilepsy. Nothing I'm going to say here should be taken as medical advice. Talk to your doctor before you do anything, for your own health. But that being said, I have epilepsy and I do a ton of reading on it. Anytime I come across something interesting, I make a note of it. Sometimes, if I read like, oh, this vitamin is good for controlling seizures. I've seen a few. Vitamin D is a big one. Vitamin E. Interestingly, a lot of vitamins that deal with epithelial cells, skin cells. The gut is lined by epithelial cells too. So that's pretty interesting. But anyways, you might have heard of something called the gut-brain axis. There's this study that came out a couple of years ago, 2017, looks like. And I'll read the title here. It's called Fecal Microbiota Transplantation Cured Epilepsy in a Case with Crohn's Disease, the First Report. Now, I haven't seen any other cases reported of this. I don't think this is a treatment that's ever been done specifically to cure epilepsy. It's something that happened as a result of this patient who had epilepsy was getting her Crohn's disease treated. And it just so happened that after having this FMT, this gut bacteria transplant, it alleviated her seizures. So I'll read the abstract here. Fecal microbiota transplant, FMT, is a promising strategy that involves reconstruction of gut microbiota. Recently, it has been considered as a treatment of Crohn's disease, CD, and certain neurological diseases. Here, to the best of our knowledge, we report the first case that used FMT to achieve remission of intestinal and neurological symptoms in a girl with CD, Crohn's disease, and a 17-year history of epilepsy. During the 20-month follow-up, FMT has proved its efficacy in preventing relapse of seizures after withdrawal of the anti-epileptic drugs. Furthermore, this finding highlights the role of the microbiota gut-brain axis and inspires a novel treatment for epilepsy through remodeling gut microbiota. So basically, what they're talking about here is the gut plays a role, I would argue, my opinion, a causative role in epilepsy. And I like to use the analogy of a car. The body is like a car. The brain is kind of like the engine. It's the thing that propels you forward, I guess you could say. Muscles would be like the wheels, I don't know. But the gut is the fuel tank. So if you have a car and it's running improperly, or, the pistons are igniting the fuel too soon, let's say, the analogy being there's uncontrolled neurological, the neurons are firing in an uncontrolled manner. Is it the engine's fault or is it the gasoline's fault? And I think this study shows that it may be the gasoline's fault. Just using that analogy. I really like that analogy. I think it's accurate. There's a couple of things that I've noticed in my own epilepsy. I've noticed that probiotics are a big help for me. I do have some gut issues. I think you'll find a lot of comorbidities with epilepsy where they'll have Crohn's, IBS, lots of things like that. You'll also see rashes, a lot of like skin issues too in epilepsy. Some of the anti-epileptic drugs can have skin reactions, which is interesting because that means that drug is interacting with the epithelial cells on some level. And that's worth a little bit more investigating. I've done a little bit more digging on this. I can get into more detail later on. I think there are some specific strains that warrant more digging. I think bacteriophage therapy, which that is a it's not a bacteria, it's more like a virus, but it consumes bacteria. So if you have an overgrowth of bad bacteria, bacteriophages can cull that and kill those off. Again, don't ever do anything without talking to your doctors first. Don't do what I've done. I've done a lot of experimenting on myself, and I will say that I've found a lot of success with probiotics. My seizures generally come around the time that my gut is very upset, let's say. I have focal seizures, focal aware, so it's pretty manageable even when I do have them. It's fairly rare that I have them, but I do have them still, even with the medicine and the probiotics. Sleep is a big thing. Stress is a big thing. A lot of this has kind of been talked to death on the forums that I read, but not a lot has been talked about in terms of curing epilepsy. This is the first study that I've seen where they use the word cured. Even where they do brain surgery, where they isolate the exact spot in the brain that seems to be where the seizures start, I think that only cures, I'd have to look up the statistics, but it doesn't always cure the seizures. A lot of times they'll still have seizures after having that surgery. It's hard even to pinpoint where the seizures are coming from in the brain. I think that if you overfill a balloon with air, it's going to pop somewhere. Is that the fault of the rubber being too thin in one spot, or is the problem overfilling that balloon? The analogy being glutamate is the speed up transmitter, and GABA is the slow down transmitter. There are a lot of bacteria that create both glutamate and GABA, which is really interesting. With something like glutamate, you might monosodium glutamate, MSG. So if you eat a lot of processed foods, you might, if you have leaky gut, meaning the contents of your gut can get into your bloodstream a little bit too easily, maybe stay away from MSG. Again, check with your doctor and all that. But there are bacteria strains that produce GABA as something that they put out. In the same way that yeast ferments beer or bread, those are molds, but funguses. But bacteria works in a similar way, and I've seen a lot of speculation that mold exposure plays a role in epilepsy, so maybe we're looking at something like an Aspergillus infection or a Candida infection. I've seen both of those, speculation. But this study's really important. I don't want to make this video too long. I want to get right to the point. I'm going to do a lot more follow-up videos on this. I'll do specific videos on specific vitamins and how those experiments that I've done on myself have worked out. Some good, some not so good. But I just wanted to get somewhere, a starting point, And this study, I really recommend anyone go out and read the entire study for themselves. It's not super long, but it's the only time I've seen the phrase cured and epilepsy in the same sentence. So there's something to that. I've got some more studies that I'll do videos on. If anyone has any questions, please comment, share it. It would be a big help. I appreciate it.